On the night of our third wedding anniversary, my wife, Elena Vance, locked me out of our apartment. She claimed she needed to celebrate with her best friend, Jared Hall, a celebration of their so-called pure friendship. When I finally pounded the door open, I found her wearing the silk nightgown I had bought her, but around her neck hung a diamond necklace from another man. "What is wrong with you? Caleb, you're disgusting." Elena screamed. "This necklace costs more than you make in 3 months. Can you even afford to replace it?" She shoved me to the floor, her eyes filled with unmasked disdain. The next day, she walked into the bid meeting for the project I was leading, clinging to Jared's arm. She thought I was just a pushover she could manipulate at will. She didn't notice the icy, sophisticated female CEO on the stage, watching me with an intense, burning gaze. Just as Elena arrogantly announced that her side was guaranteed to win, the CEO's phone call came through to me. "Mr. Stone, I'm offering a $10 billion project in exchange for you becoming my man." The cold phone vibrated in my palm. The name on the caller ID silenced the entire bustling conference hall. Sterling Corp. Serena Sterling. Elena was still holding on to Jared's arm, the smugness not yet fading from her face. She saw my phone screen and let out a scoff. "Look at him, still pretending." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for everyone around us to hear. Who knows what cheap hooker he got to call him just to put on a show? Jared laughed along, the contempt in his eyes sharp as a knife. "Caleb, get a rest. You're a bottom-tier corporate drone. You think you're worthy of knowing Serena Sterling?" Stifled snickers rippled through the room. The gazes felt like thousands of ants crawling over my skin. I ignored them and slid the answer button. On the other end, Serena's voice was cold, yet carried a barely perceptible tremor. "Mr. Stone, I'm offering a $10 billion project in exchange for you becoming my man." The sentence exploded in my ear like a bomb. $10 billion. In exchange for me. I looked up at Elena, who stood on the stage looking triumphant. She was basking in the envy and jealousy of the crowd, convinced she had already won. She looked down at me from her high horse, as if viewing an insect she could crush at any moment. She cleared her throat, speaking in a microphone but directing her words at me. "Caleb Stone, we're done. As soon as this bidding is over, we're getting a divorce." The crowd went into an uproar, eyes darting back and forth between us. I felt no humiliation, only amusement. Into the phone, I spoke calmly. "Ms. Sterling, I accept your terms." I paused, then added, "But I also have a condition." Silence on the other end for a second. "Name it." "I want Apex Dynamics to never recover." Apex Dynamics was the company Elena and Jared worked for, and my biggest competitor in this bid. Serena's voice held no hesitation. If anything, it became firmer. "Done." I hung up, meeting Elena's gaze, a mix of scorn and the pity of a victor. I slowly took off my black-rimmed glasses. The world instantly became sharper and colder. I spoke, enunciating every word. My voice wasn't loud, yet it carried clearly to every corner of the room. "Elena, you didn't dump me. I'm the one discarding you." The venue fell deathly silent. The smile on Elena's face froze. I slid the wedding band off my left ring finger. The platinum ring I had scrimped and saved for 3 months to buy now seemed utterly ridiculous. I tossed it casually onto the floor. Ding ding, the sound of metal hitting the floor was crisp and harsh. It sounded like the death knell for my 3-year marriage. Divorce. We're doing it now. Before Elena could recover from the shock, I turned to leave. At that moment, I didn't want to stay in this space filled with her scent for another second. Behind me, Jared suddenly shouted, "Hold it, Caleb, the bidding isn't over." Trying to run away. He thought I was afraid. He thought I was fleeing. I stopped, but I didn't turn back. Right? The show hadn't even started yet. How could I leave? The moderator walked back onto the stage, holding the envelope with the final results. He wore a professional smile, but his eyes had a shock he couldn't quite conceal. Everyone held their breath, eyes focused on the stage. The Apex Dynamics presentation was still lit up on the screen, featuring Jared's spirited face. Elena straightened her back again, chin slightly raised, returning to her victor's pose. She looked at me, her eyes seeming to say, "See, this is a height you will never reach." I announced that the winner of the Cloud Summit project is... The moderator deliberately dragged out the suspense. Elena and Jared were already preparing to stand up and accept congratulations. Sterling Corp's special partner, the designer Mr. M. What? The crowd erupted. Time seemed to stop. Elena and Jared froze halfway out of their seats, their smiles congealing into grotesque masks. The entire Apex team was dumbfounded. How was this possible? Wasn't it rigged? In the dead silence, The heavy doors of the hall were pushed open. Serena Sterling, dressed in an impeccably tailored haute couture suit, walked in surrounded by bodyguards. The moment she appeared, she became the center of attention. Her heels clicked on the floor with a steady, powerful rhythm, each step sounding like it was stomping on Elena's heart. She walked straight onto the stage and took the microphone from the moderator. Many people are curious about who M is. Her voice was cool, carrying an undeniable power. 3 years ago, he won the International Design Gold Award single-handedly, then vanished. Today, I am honored to tell you all, he is back. She turned around. Her gaze cut through the commotion, passed over the stunned faces, and landed precisely on me. Her red lips parted, articulating 3 words. He is Mr. Caleb Stone. Whoosh! Every spotlight instantly swung around, focusing entirely on me. The blinding light made me squint slightly. I stood up calmly, took off the faded suit jacket I was wearing, and tossed it onto the chair. Then, meeting Serena's gaze, I locked eyes with her. Elena's face went white as a sheet. Her lips trembled as she muttered, "No. Impossible. He's a loser. How could he be M? Impossible. Jared looked like death warmed over. He stiffly turned his head to look at his proud design on the big screen. That design now looked utterly laughable, because it was just a sketch I had drawn for fun 3 years ago, crumpled up and thrown in the trash. Elena had picked it out of the garbage and given it to him. I walked up to the stage, step by step, and took the microphone from Serena. I didn't look at anyone else, only at the soulless woman down below. I smiled faintly, my voice amplified through the speakers. "Elena, you were right. I really can't afford that necklace. Because any random sketch of mine is worth 100 times more than that bauble." Elena trembled as if all her strength had been drained, collapsing into her chair. Serena didn't even spare her a glance. Speaking into the microphone, she announced the final judgment on Apex. Sterling Corp will invest $10 billion to support Mr. Stone in establishing his personal studio. She paused, her eyes turning cold. As for Apex Dynamics, for stealing another's design and using it to bid, Sterling Corp will petition the Industry Association to permanently blacklist them. They will never work in this industry again. With a boom, the Apex delegation exploded into chaos. I just watched Elena coldly. Her world had only just begun to collapse. Outside the courthouse, the red sign looked incredibly ironic. After the massive blow at the bidding meeting, Elena looked haggard, but the arrogance in her bones remained. She probably thought that no matter how powerful I was, I would still consider our past feelings when it came to dividing assets. "Caleb, my parents paid the down payment on the condo. Don't even think about taking it," she said coldly, crossing her arms. "You asked for the divorce. Don't be ugly about it. Are you really going to fight a woman for money?" She was trying morally kidnap me again, just like every time she made a mistake over the past 3 years. I didn't speak. From my briefcase, I pulled out a thick ledger and a stack of printed bank statements. Slap. I threw them onto the hood of the car in front of her. "What is this?" She frowned. I opened the first page of the ledger and pointed to the record. "First year of marriage, our anniversary. You bought a Hermes bag, $12,000. Charged to my card. Second year, your brother wanted a car. You transferred $30,000 directly from our joint account to him. That money was royalties I saved before we got married. It was my premarital asset." Elena's face changed. I flipped through page by page. Every transaction was recorded clearly. Date, amount, purpose, even the excuse she used at the time. 3 days ago, that necklace on your neck. Jared gave it to you. I looked up at her, a mocking curve on my lips. He's a fresh intern. Where did he get $15,000? You transferred money from the household allowance I gave you, in 5 installments of $3,000 each, to him. Correct. Elena's face went from arrogant to panicked, then to a sheet of white. Her lips quivered, unable to form a word. She probably never expected that the man she saw as submissive and compliant had kept such clear receipts of everything. I snapped the ledger shut. "I don't want a house, but the total of $158,000 you took from me under various pretenses over these 3 years is my personal property. Pay it back. Either transfer the money now, or we see each other in court. Your choice." "Caleb, you set me up." She finally broke down, screaming. "We were husband and wife. Isn't your money my money? Why are you doing this to me?" I laughed coldly. "From the moment you brought another man home and locked the door, it wasn't." I pushed the prepared divorce agreement and the debt acknowledgement form toward her. "Sign it." My voice held no warmth. "Otherwise, before the court summons arrives, your new employer will receive a legal letter regarding your suspected embezzlement and financial fraud." Elena shuddered. She knew I wasn't joking. With the power of Serena Sterling and Sterling Corp, making her unemployable in this city would be child's play. She bit her lip hard, tears swirling in her eyes, daring not to let them fall. Finally, with a trembling hand, she picked up the pen. She signed her name on the divorce agreement and the debt acknowledgement. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt lighter than I had in years. But Elena didn't know that the reckoning was just beginning. She thought paying the money back was the end? Too naive. I dragged my single suitcase out of the residential complex where I had lived for 3 years. I felt no nostalgia. Just as I reached the gate, Elena chased after me. She ran out of breath, tear tracks still on her face, and grabbed my arm. "Caleb, I was wrong. Let's not divorce, okay?" She begged, her voice hoarse. "I'll find a way to pay you back. Let's start over. Please." Truly laughable. If she knew this would happen, why act that way in the beginning? I was about to shake her off when a striking red Ferrari silently pulled up and stopped steadily in front of me. The window rolled down slowly. Serena wore oversized sunglasses that covered half her face, revealing only a refined jawline and cool red lips. "Get in." Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried a tone of command. "Elena Froze." She looked at me, then at the supercar she had only seen in magazines, and finally at the powerful woman inside. It was as if she had seen a ghost. I didn't give her another chance. I forcefully shook off her hand, opened the door, and sat in the passenger seat. From start to finish, Serena didn't even glance at Elena. She slammed on the gas, and the red sports car let out a low growl, speeding away into the dust. Leaving behind Elena, collapsed on the ground, surrounded by her shattered dignity. In the rearview mirror, her figure grew smaller and smaller until she was just a blurry black dot. For the first time, I felt she truly understood the bone-chilling regret and panic of what she had lost. A faint, cool fragrance filled the car. Serena kept her eyes on the road, driving with focus, saying nothing. Only when the car was cruising smoothly over the bridge did she take a black key card from a storage compartment and hand it to me. "Until the studio is ready, stay here." I didn't take it immediately. "Ms. Sterling, our deal." "Call me Serena." She interrupted me, her tone brooking no argument. The car soon drove into the city's most exclusive Riverview luxury estate, the Summit Residences. The real estate prices here were astronomical figures ordinary people couldn't reach in a lifetime. The car stopped in front of a detached villa in the center. "We're here." Serena unbuckled her seatbelt and led me into the villa. Fingerprint unlock. The door opened. The moment it opened, I froze. The play of light in the entryway, the layout of the living room, the angle of the floor-to-ceiling windows, even a nondescript reading lamp in the corner. Everything here was incredibly familiar. The entire design style of the house, from the macro layout to the micro details, was exactly the same as a design draft I had never published 3 years ago. I had named that design a haven. It symbolized a wandering soul finding its final resting place. Serena took off her sunglasses. Those cool eyes were now surging with a nervousness and heat I had never seen before. 3 years ago, I saw the initial draft in an anonymous online design competition. I was shaken. I felt that this was the soul of architecture. I looked for this designer for 3 years. She walked closer to me step by step, the sound of her heels echoing in the spacious living room. She stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell the scent of her hair. She stood on her tiptoes, almost pressing against my ear, her breath like an orchid. "Caleb, or should I say Em? Now, you and your work both belong to me." Her voice carried a hint of seduction and a hint of dominance. For the first time, I felt my heartbeat accelerate out of control. The opening gala for M Studio was set for the penthouse of the city's top 7-star hotel. Serena mobilized all of Sterling Corp's resources to build momentum for my rebirth. Invitations were sent to every celebrity and titan in the business and design worlds. On the night of the gala, I changed into a bespoke suit, my hair groomed to perfection. Taking off my glasses, I looked at the man in the mirror, familiar yet strange. So, this was what Caleb Stone was supposed to look like. Confident, composed, even a bit sharp. Serena came to pick me up personally. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. She wore a black mermaid gown that traced her perfect curves, looking noble and aloof. She naturally took my arm. "Let's go, my genius designer. Tonight, you are the only protagonist." The gala was filled with the rustle of silk and the clinking of glasses. Serena stayed by my side like a hostess, introducing me to various tycoons. "Chairman Lee, this is M. Caleb Stone. Mr. Wong, a pleasure. We'll be relying on you and Caleb Studio for Sterling's future projects." I conversed with them effortlessly, discussing everything from architectural aesthetics to market prospects. Their looks changed from initial scrutiny to surprise, and finally to genuine appreciation and respect. It was a feeling I had missed for a long time. Meanwhile, outside the hotel entrance, Elena, wearing a cheap cocktail dress that clearly didn't fit and makeup that was falling apart, was being ruthlessly blocked by two large security guards. "I'm sorry, miss. Please show your invitation. I'm a friend of Caleb Stone. Let me in. I have to talk to him," she argued desperately. The guard remained expressionless. No invitation, no entry. Since the bidding meeting, she and Jared had been fired by Apex immediately due to the plagiarism scandal. The entire industry had received Sterling Corp's blacklist order, and no company dared to hire them. Jared had given up on himself, drinking all day. And Elena, after burning through her savings, was finally tasting the bitterness of life. She wasn't resigned. She saw the news of my studio opening and came with a last shred of hope, wanting to beg me. From outside the massive glass curtain wall, she could clearly see the man inside who was the center of attention. He was chatting and laughing, radiating confidence, looking so compatible with the queen-like woman beside him. That was me, a version of me she had never seen, a me she had pushed away with her own hands. Just then, a wealthy socialite passing by me stumbled, spilling half a glass of red wine on my suit. "Oh my, I'm so sorry, Mr. Stone." The woman turned pale with fright. I was about to say it was fine, but Serena had already taken a silk handkerchief from her clutch. With natural intimacy, she personally and gently wiped the wine stain from my chest. "Caleb, are you okay?" Her tone held a hint of rebuke, but it was directed at the socialite. That image deeply pierced Elena, watching from outside the glass. She remembered how many times she had pushed me away in disgust because I accidentally got a spot on her dress while doing housework. She had said, "Caleb, you're so useless. You can't even do this right." Unwilling to give up, she took out her phone and tremblingly dialed my number. The phone rang for a long time. Just when she thought it wouldn't connect, I picked up. "Hello." My voice was calm and very distant. "Caleb, it's me. Who is this?" I asked coldly, just 3 words, then hung up directly. The busy signal on the line felt like a heavy hammer, smashing her last fantasy to pieces. At the climax of the gala, Serena took the stage. Sterling Corp's high-end real estate projects for the next 5 years will be exclusively designed by M Studio. Thunderous applause erupted. Outside the door, listening to the unending cheers and the name repeated over and over, Caleb Stone, Elena felt cold all over. She slowly squatted down, hugging her knees under the luxurious lights of the hotel entrance, crying like a child abandoned by the whole world. She finally understood that she hadn't just lost a man who loved her. She had lost a brilliant world she wasn't even qualified to look up at. Just as my career was getting on track and my relationship with Serena was heating up, an unexpected call came in. It was my former mother-in-law. The moment I answered, a torrent of abuse poured out. "Caleb Stone, you ingrate. You heartless thing. How did our Elena ever wrong you? You make it big and immediately dump her. Do you have no conscience?" Her voice was shrill and piercing, filled with venom. I held the phone away from my ear, listening expressionlessly. When she got tired of cursing, she switched tactics and started wailing. I've had a heart attack because of you. I'm lying in the hospital right now. You have to come here immediately. Give me an explanation, or I'll die right here in this hospital." Heart attack? I knew this was Elena's scheme. They were trying to play the family card, using her mother to force me to soften, to force me to look back. Truly laughable. Why do they think the old tricks would still work on me? But fine. Some things needed a complete and final severance. I spoke into the phone calmly. "All right, send me the address. I'm coming." I hung up. Serena, who was quietly reading documents nearby, looked up. She must have heard everything. "Need help?" she asked. I looked at her and suddenly smiled. "I don't need help, but I'd like to invite you to watch a good show." "Interested?" Serena raised an eyebrow, closed the file, and stood up. "With pleasure." I drove Serena to the City General Hospital. The car was quiet on the way. As we neared the hospital, Serena asked, seemingly casually, "Do you really not miss her at all?" My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I looked at the traffic ahead, my gaze firm. I don't eat scraps that have been chewed on by dogs. Serena didn't speak again, but the corners of her mouth lifted into a very beautiful arc. At the inpatient department, we found my ex-mother-in-law's room. Before we even entered, we clearly heard Elena coaching her mother inside. "Mom, when he comes in later, cry your heart out. I don't believe he can really be that heartless. 3 years of marriage isn't something you can just cut off." My ex-mother-in-law responded with full lung capacity, Got it. Watch me. I guarantee he'll come crawling back, begging you. Serena and I exchanged a look, both seeing the amusement in each other's eyes. I didn't hesitate anymore and pushed the door open. Mrs. Vance, I'm here. Behind me followed Serena, radiating the aura of a queen on inspection. The conversation between mother and daughter in the ward cut off abruptly. The crying Mrs. Vance had prepared got stuck in her throat, her expression going through a spectrum of colors. Elena's face instantly turned the color of liver, as if she had been stripped naked in public. Showtime. Mrs. Vance, being an old veteran of manipulation, only paused for half a second before getting into character. She slapped the bed frame and started howling at the top of her lungs. Oh my God, I can't live like this. My daughter, whom I raised with such care, is being bullied, and now I, her mother, have outsiders coming to laugh at me. While howling, she kept signaling me with her eyes to kick Serena out. Elena also reacted, falling to her knees with a thud and hugging my leg. Caleb, I know I was wrong. Forgive me. She wept with the beauty of a pear blossom bathed in rain, looking pitiful. We are family. Have you forgotten who took you in when you first came to this city? Have you forgotten how my parents treated you? She started playing the emotional card again, tried to awaken feelings that had long since died. Before I could speak, Serena laughed coldly. A lawyer in a black suit stepped out from behind her and handed a document to Mrs. Vance. Mrs. Vance, hello. According to hospital diagnostic records, you only have mild hypertension. There is no sign of a heart attack. The lawyer adjusted his glasses, his tone icy. If you continue to cause trouble using a fake illness, we can sue you for fraud and harassment. Mrs. Vance's howling stopped instantly, like a chicken being choked. She stared dumbfounded at the document, unable to utter a word. Serena walked elegantly to my side, naturally took my arm, and looked down at Elena kneeling on the floor. Miss, please have some dignity. My fiancé and I have a very good relationship, and we don't wish to be disturbed by irrelevant people. The word fiancé exploded like a heavy bomb in Elena's and her mother's ears. Elena jerked her head up, looking incredulously at our intimate stance. She collapsed on the floor, her face ashen. But that wasn't enough. Serena took another stack of photos and a document from her clutch and casually tossed them onto the hospital bed. By the way, Mrs. Vance, this is a greeting gift from me. A small token. Confused, Mrs. Vance picked up the photos. They showed her pride and joy, her son, Elena's brother, Tyler, gambling wildly in an underground casino. His face was flushed red, his expression manic, a mountain of chips in front of him. And the document was a loan shark contract. The debt amount with compounding interest had reached a shocking figure, $3 million. Ah! Seeing that number, Mrs. Vance's vision went black. She screamed, and this time, she truly fainted. The hospital room instantly descended into chaos. Elena screamed and went to help her mom. Doctors and nurses rushed in. I watched this farce with no waves in my heart. I took Serena's hand and turned to leave. Let's go. The show's over. Behind us were Elena's desperate and venomous cries. But so what? They brought all of this upon themselves. Walking out of the hospital, the sun was shining. I felt the air was significantly fresher. I thought things would end there, but I underestimated the madness of human nature when pushed to the brink. Jared, the man whose future I had destroyed with my own hands, chose the most extreme way to retaliate. I was in a meeting when my phone suddenly received a video. I clicked it open. It was Serena. She was tied to a broken chair, tape over her mouth. The background was an abandoned factory, dimly lit and messy. Although she looked relatively calm, her pale face and furrowed brows betrayed her fear. Immediately after, Jared's call came in. His voice roared through the phone, filled with madness and twisted pleasure. Caleb, do you see? Your queen is in my hands now. You ruined everything I had. I want you to trade all your money and the ownership of M Studio for her life. Come alone. No police. Or I'll kill her. The veins on the hand holding my phone bulged. A violent emotion I had never felt before surged from the depths of my heart. But I forced myself to be calm. Okay, I accept. My voice was terrifyingly calm. Send me the address. Don't hurt her. Hanging up, I immediately told my assistant, call the police. Then, I didn't wait for the cops. I grabbed my car keys and rushed out. I knew that dealing with a madman like Jared required being crazier than him. I drove alone, speeding all the way to the address he sent. It was a steel mill abandoned long ago. Following his demands, I walked in alone carrying an empty USB drive and a fake asset transfer agreement. Inside the factory, Jared held a dagger against Serena's neck. Seeing me, He grinned savagely. Caleb, you finally came? Give me the stuff. I threw the USB drive and the documents over. The instant his attention wavered to catch them, I moved. I grabbed a rusty steel pipe leaning against the wall and, using every ounce of strength in my body, smashed it violently against his arm holding the knife. Crack! A crisp sound of bone fracturing. Arg! Jared let out a blood-curdling scream, and the dagger dropped to the ground. I didn't stop. With a ruthless look in my eyes, I kicked him to the ground. Before he could react, the heavy steel pipe was pressed firmly against his throat. Try touching a hair on her head. My voice was ice-cold, devoid of emotion, filled with intense killing intent. At this moment, I was a completely different person from the refined designer everyone knew. Serena, now untied, watched my frenzied, ruthless state on her behalf. Her eyes shifted from initial worry to shock, and finally dissolved into deep fascination and affection. She never knew Caleb had a side like this. When the police arrived, I was stepping firmly on Jared's face, grinding him into the dirt. Seeing Serena safe and sound, my taut nerves finally relaxed. I threw away the steel pipe, walked quickly to her, and pulled her tightly into my embrace. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Serena nodded vigorously in my arms. She knew this man was worth entrusting her life to. Jared was sentenced to prison for attempted kidnapping and assault. To pay off the loan shark for Tyler, the Vance family sold their only house and went completely bankrupt. Mrs. Vance, suffering from successive blows, had a stroke and was paralyzed in bed. Elena's life completely hit rock bottom, and the story of Serena and me was just beginning. Serena accepted my proposal. Our engagement party was grand and magnificent. The city's elite all came to congratulate us. In the banquet hall, I wore a white tuxedo and Serena wore a dazzling red dress. We stood together, accepting everyone's blessings. Just when the atmosphere was at its peak, an accident happened. A figure broke through the security blockade at the entrance and stumbled in. It was Elena. She was in rags, her hair a mess, her face flushed with an abnormal feverish redness. She looked haggard, bordering on madness. Her appearance was entirely out of place in this luxurious banquet. All the guests stopped talking, looking at this uninvited guest in surprise. She ignored everyone's gazes and rushed straight to me. Thud! She fell to her knees. She grabbed my pant leg tightly, tears streaming down her face. Caleb, I really know I was wrong. Please, for the sake of our 3 years of marriage, give me one more chance. I don't want anything anymore. I just want you back. I'll work like a dog for you. The guests whispered and pointed. Serena's face instantly turned cold, and she was about to call security to drag her out. I raised a hand to stop her. I walked up to Elena and slowly crouched down. This was the first time since our divorce that I had looked at her so earnestly. A faint fire of hope ignited in her eyes. I looked at her, lips moving, and whispered so only the two of us could hear. There is no sake of marriage between us anymore. Not since the day of our anniversary, when you put on that necklace for another man. Not since you locked me out and called me disgusting. Not since you stole my designs, hoping to trample me underfoot. The hope in her eyes extinguished bit by bit, turning into dead ash. I stood up, not sparing her another glance. Instead, I turned around, facing all the guests, facing the woman I loved deeply, Serena Sterling. From my pocket, I took out a velvet box. Inside was a diamond ring I had designed myself, one of a kind. Under everyone's gaze, I dropped to one knee. Ms. Serena Sterling. I looked up at her eyes, reddened with emotion. I accept the $10 billion project. Now, I want to use the rest of my life in exchange for you being my wife. Do you accept? Serena's tears finally fell. She nodded vigorously through her tears. Edo. I put the ring on her finger. The crowd erupted in thunderous applause. I stood up, pulled her into my arms, and kissed her deeply. Behind us came a howl of despair from Elena. She was dragged out like a dead dog by 2 large security guards. Her crying, her begging, everything about her was drowned out in this ocean of blessings. From this moment on, the name Elena Vance was completely erased from my life. Life after marriage was exactly as I imagined, and yet not completely. Serena was used to being dominant. She always wanted to be the queen giving orders at home, too. But I wasn't going to let her have her way. We moved into the Haven. Serena naturally assumed I should move into her master bedroom. Instead, I deliberately set up the guest room and moved my things in there. The first night, midnight, the door to the master bedroom opened. Wearing a black silk nightgown, hugging a pillow, Serena appeared at the door of my guest room with a stern face. Chief Designer Stone, she said in a business-like tone, the heating in my bedroom seems to be broken. It's too cold in there. I need you to come over and conduct an on-site inspection of the heating situation. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, looking at her with amusement. Ms. Sterling, an inspection is fine, but my consulting fees are very expensive. Serena's face blushed, but she stayed stubborn. How much? Name your price. I leaned down and whispered in her ear, will you pay with your body? The next day, a core project blueprint at Sterling Corp had a key load-bearing data point accidentally drawn wrong by me. Only I could fix this data. The project manager frantically called Serena. I heard she was stomping her feet in anger in her office, cursing me all day. That evening when I came home, I was sitting on the sofa reading. She walked over with a basin of hot water and placed it by my feet. Then, extremely gently, she began to massage my shoulders. Master Caleb, you've worked hard. Her voice was sugary sweet. About the design blueprint. I kept my eyes closed on purpose, enjoying her service. Call me husband. Serena's face went beet red, her hands pausing. At the company, you're the boss. You have to listen to me. I opened my eyes, pulled her into my arms, and sat her on my lap. I held her chin and whispered, but at home, in this home I designed, you have to listen to me. She struggled in my arms for a moment, eventually softening and resting her head on my shoulder. Tyrant, she muttered softly. I smiled. In this house, my little schemes were hidden everywhere. The sofa she loved to sit on was angled perfectly, so she could lean comfortably into my arms while watching movies. The kitchen counter was exactly the right height for me to hold her from behind. The queen who commanded the wind and clouds outside returned home to be bullied by me with no power to retaliate. But we both reveled in it. This sweet tug-of-war made our feelings heat up rapidly amidst the daily routine and playful bickering. This, I realized, was what a home felt like. Serena and I went to a famous little alley on the south side of the city to eat. The restaurant was known for authentic home-style cooking, and the owner's skills were said to be superb. The place wasn't big, buzzing with noise, and full of life. We barely found a corner seat by the window. While waiting for the food, I glanced inadvertently toward the kitchen and saw a busy figure at the door. The figure was thin and small, wearing an ill-fitting gray uniform, struggling to scrub a mountain of dishes. It was Elena. She had become dark and gaunt, her hair dry and yellow, her knuckles swollen and red from soaking in water for too long. Her face no longer held any of its former refinement or arrogance. Only the numbness of being ground down by life remained. She saw us, too. The moment our eyes met, the numbness in hers was instantly replaced by terror and shame. She turned instinctively, trying to hide back in the kitchen, but in her panic, she knocked over a stack of dishes next to her. Crash! The harsh sound of shattering attracted everyone's attention. The landlady rushed over upon hearing the noise. Seeing the mess on the floor, she flew into a rage. Elena, where are your eyes? Your wages for this month aren't even enough to cover this. Elena shrank her neck, apologizing profusely. I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean to, I'm sorry. The landlady was still cursing. Serena held my hand and asked softly, does it hurt to see this? I shook my head, picked up my chopsticks, and placed a piece of sweet and sour pork she loved in her bowl. I only regret not meeting you sooner. The mess at that table was quickly cleaned up. The landlady, probably feeling she had lost face in front of customers like us, came over to chat awkwardly. She pointed toward the kitchen and sighed. Really pitiful. I heard she used to be a decent person. Family was well off. Then she got scammed out of her fortune by some jerk. Her brother went to jail for gambling. Parents got sick from the stress. Life is hard. The landlady lowered her voice. When she first came here, she kept mumbling about how her husband was some amazing designer, saying if only she hadn't divorced. Pity, there's no medicine for regret. I listened quietly, my heart unmoving. After eating, I went to pay the bill. It was $320. I took out my wallet and placed $500 on the counter. Ma'am, the food was delicious. The rest is a tip for the lady in the kitchen. After speaking, I didn't look back at Elena. This was my final farewell to that past, and the last bit of pity I could give her. Walking out of the restaurant, the sun was shining brightly, warming my body. I knew I had buried my past with my own hands and welcomed my new life. Her world had nothing to do with me anymore. I gave Serena a wedding unmatched in the world. The location wasn't any hotel, but a pure white cruise ship I had designed myself, named the Haven. The ship sailed slowly on the blue sea, seagulls circling overhead. The entire design concept of the wedding venue was the final, perfect form of the Haven. It represented a heart that had wandered for a long time, finally finding a harbor to dock. Serena wore a wedding dress I designed specifically for her embellished with countless tiny diamonds, sparkling in the sunlight, impossibly beautiful. She took her father's arm and walked toward me step by step. Amidst the blessings of all our friends and family, we exchanged rings. During the vows, I looked into her eyes, which held stars and the sea. I said sincerely, "Thank you. When I thought the world was pitch black, you lit up the entire sky for me. You show me that being firmly chosen by someone is such a happy thing. Serena Sterling, you are my haven." Serena's face was wet with tears, and she initiated the kiss. The ship's whistle blew long and loud. Ribbons and petals flew together, and we embraced tightly amidst everyone's blessings. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, in a dark, damp rental apartment, Elena was scrolling through an old phone with a cracked screen. The screen was covered with news about our wedding of the century. The headlines were red, bold, stinging her eyes. Genius designer M's wedding of the century. The billionaire bride and the homecoming of love. She tapped on the photos. The pictures showed my happy smile, the overflowing love in Serena's eyes, the magnificent cruise ship, the blue sea. Everything was like a sharp knife, stabbing ruthlessly into her heart. That was what she once had, but had thrown away with her own hands. She didn't even dare to imagine if she hadn't locked that door on the night of the anniversary 3 years ago. If she hadn't said those hurtful words for that ridiculous necklace. If she hadn't been blinded by vanity. But in this world, there are no ifs. She turned off the phone and buried her face deep in her arms. A bowl of cheap instant noodles, soggy and swollen, sat on the corner of the table. She couldn't control it anymore. She slumped over the cold table, weeping in suppressed, silent agony. Tears of regret fell drop by drop, soaking the icy surface. Outside the window, brilliant fireworks suddenly bloomed in the night sky. Those were the wedding fireworks I had prepared for Serena. Splendid, grand, and incredibly ironic. Story complete.